Hello, everyone. Again, good evening to everyone out there on Facebook. Hello, Wendy. Thank you for being here. We are have our wonderful guest here today. This is my first time meeting her. Her poem, book of poems. There's some very wonderful things in here, and we're just gonna get started by just having you guys see that some lessons of life through poetry, and it's a spring quick read poems and narrated writing volume. Tell us about yourself and what do you want your readers to know about you?
Well, I am a poet, I'm a writer, and I'm an author of two new awesome book series. I have my children's book series, which is All These Hands, A Day in the Life of Erin Lee. And it takes a snapshot of her day from her morning routine, her morning song, to her nighttime rituals with her family. And then I also am very excited about my adult poetry book series, as you have, which is some lessons of life through poetry, spring, poems and narrative writings. And I call this quick reads because due to some of the subject matters, it's they can be kind of heavy,
Yes.
revealing, um, and straightforward. And it was just easy for me to break it up into small pieces where you wouldn't feel too overwhelmed by some of the stories. And I just had them. Well, I had a great time. It was very therapeutic for me writing the book. Well, each and every last one of them was very exciting, and I enjoyed it very much. But I'm going to say I got the most growth from some lessons of life through poetry. Thank
What
you.
is the backdrop of writing this? Because the poem, as you said, they're heavy. Some of them are dark. Some of them are, I mean, some of them are just dark stories of wounded women or a woman. And as I read them, I was like, what is, I have to ask you, Lewis, what is your backdrop? What is it to these poems? I mean, they really dig deep and dark, and there's some resolution and some recovering of oneself. But why did you write these dark?
I It was a way of coping with my stresses. I've always written as a child, and it was my way of dealing with the world around me and not clearly having a voice at that time. So
Mhm.
I just retreated to writing narrative, short stories, poems. That's what I did to survive. Um, some of the stories hit on my childhood. I'm a child of molestation, not of one, but of many, both men and women. Um, I was in an abusive marriage. It got to the point to where it had even spilled over to my children, and I got out, but it wasn't easy. But I did it. In the poems or some of my lessons of life,
Mhm.
and I wrote it out. It didn't start out as a book. It just started out of, as like I said before, as a way of me coping with the stresses um, of my marriage, um, realizing how frustrated I was with myself. Not necessarily, it didn't have much to do with him, but I was more frustrated with myself because I let it happen to me.
Mhm.
It's one thing when I was a child, but now I'm an adult woman. And as a married woman, I find myself accepting things as a single woman I wouldn't. And I really started to hate myself. I really didn't enjoy myself in that time frame.
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of that coming out in there. The first one I want to look at
Hmm.
um, was the very first one, unsent. Let me just go to
The
it.
unsent letter.
Letter.
Yes.
And so what I discovered in there, it was like like you say, some of the things, some of the molestation and stuff, you could see it. It wasn't really spelled out, but you knew something was going on. And so when you just kind of key in on that molestation or different types of abuse, and one small word or a little sentence is like, the woman was made to feel that she was the cause of these things happening to her. So I want to just kind of bring that out. So what do you feel, or the reason as to saying that this woman caused me to attack her? It's, it's her fault. So.
Uh, for the simple fact, it was told to me it was my fault. It was told to me as a child that I wanted it to happen. It was told to me because of the way that I was shaped, the way that my Heavenly Father made me um, fast or promiscuous. Just my body and the way it was made it hard for men to stay in their place. It made it hard for women to be women around this child. So it was, I felt that it was my fault. One, because I didn't have the fortitude at the time to speak or to tell my mom
Mhm.
what happened to me, because they used my love against me. They told me, basically, if you tell her, she's not going to love you, she's not going to look at you the same way. And that's what I didn't want to happen. I didn't want my family to think all those things that they said about me, or what was told to me was true, that I went out seeking this attention when I'm only outside playing.
Mhm.
At that time, we played jacks, we played hide and go seek, we played um
Double
uh
dutch? Did you do double dutch?
yeah, no, we did play jump rope. We did
Mhm.
all of those things. We played with Barbie dolls. I mean, this happened to me at a very age where I felt, at one point I felt beautiful and very free and carefree about the way I looked. But you know, that whole idea of what beauty was, I didn't have,
Mhm.
because when I was younger, none of the boys in my grade, in my age group liked me. So I was always getting attention from older men, older boys, in high school, and in their 20s and their 30s, and sometimes even older than that. So I was confused, and it put me in a place to where it made me fearful of love
Mhm.
as a woman, you know. And I battled through that. And I thought that once I got my marriage together, that when I said I do, that I was safe from all of any type of hurt, harm, or danger. But again, I don't put all the blame on him. There was signs.
Yeah.
I saw them, but I can make it better, is what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Always.
But
Yeah.
it didn't happen.
Mm. There's another thing too that we always say in the Black culture for a Black woman. We are supposed to thrive on our strength. We go through so much,
That is
and
so true.
are we to push the frailty of our strength and just push everything aside and to believe that just be strong? We are not strong without God. So when I heard some of those things in there and being strong, the strength, we're pulling a whole wagon of stuff, family, ignoring things and stuff like that. Do you think that is just something that is carried on to us, or is that a myth that we must be strong even after grief, even after rape, even after all types of abuse? Is it a fact that we must be strong and never show
Well,
our frailty of our mishaps in our lives?
I, I would say that it is bred in us to show anger, fear, sadness. Sometimes it increases it. Sometimes when you cry out in pain, sometimes that can spark excitement in your perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
So as a whole, if you take a look at our history, um, or as our women, our mothers, our grandmothers being raped,
Mm-hmm.
um, who could they run and talk to? Who could they couldn't go tell their husbands, because if their husbands did anything against the landowner, the slave owners, what happened to our husbands? What happened to our men? What happened to our sons if they spoke up against us?
Yes.
So it is bred down, and it is a mechanism that we use to protect ourselves. But in that silence, because I grew up in a family or in a time frame to where it was hush hush. You don't speak those things out loudly. And for me, I was brought around people who I heard speak of me badly, and it that hurt me as a child. And I was in a place of like, who can I trust? If I can't trust my cousins, my adult cousins, if I can't trust my sisters, if I can't trust my dad, my mom, and my uncles with this information, where do I go? And 9 times out of 10, we retreat within ourselves, and sometimes it's to our own detriment. I just praise the Most High that I didn't end up on drugs, uh, a prostitute, or any type of other. I had other issues that I dealt with. Not saying that any of those things were bad, but I felt that because I had faith in the Father, I understood that He loved me. It kind of kept me right on the edge,
Mm-hmm.
because there was times of where I thought it would be easier just to leave. It would be easier uh, to just disappear.
Mm. These poems are just, like I say, they're dark, well written, and it's just, it's a lot. Even though you've written it or wrote it in small pieces, it was still chunks to swallow. It was. And one of the other thing is, I like when you talk about the first time, and you mentioned like red flags. And so I was wondering with this one, the first time, was it really the first time that they leave, or, to those red flags and to leave the first time? I was like, did they really leave the first time, or just continue with?
No, I could, yes. The first time could have been so much more longer than that, because first time that any abuse happens, you don't even recognize it as abuse. It's just that a new relationship, you're trying to see what is going to work in the relationship, and I do something or they do something, and you just play it off. You don't give it weight. And everything's that happen in your relationship, starting the first moment that you call yourself dating, you should be on guard. Just because you don't know the history of the person that you're dating, you know your history. But if you give up too much too soon, you lose your power,
Mhm.
because you sometimes we don't even realize that we give our enemies ammunition. Our enemies sometimes come to us with a smile on their face. And some of us, some women and men, are so open and ready to receive love that we give it to the wrong people without actually
That's
really
true.
vetting them.
Mhm.
So the first time was the last time. The first time actually is when, I misplaced some money. I didn't really misplace it. It was taken. It was stolen away from me. But I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe I spent it. I'm not sure. So, but we all that's me. And
Mhm.
I just wrote it off. I just wrote it off. But
Just
then
making
again,
excuses for the obvious, just making excuses for the obvious stuff, just because you don't want to bring no
I
fire
started
to it.
accusing folks.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. So it's hard, but the first time was the last time. And you have to start realizing or noticing a pattern. You know, if a person is there to do you harm, they will start off early. They they can't help themselves. Um, so, but not to say that you give yourself 100% all in at that first date, but you also have to fill it out. And when it's not feeling good or easy to your spirit, if you find yourself compromising to the point that you don't recognize yourself, to where you're browbeaten, it's time to get out.
Yeah, time to get out, stop making those excuses to stay.
Yes.
You have another one, and I don't know what you chose to read, but I can't wait to hear from you. You can do two pieces if you want to,
Okay.
but I really want you to do the one from that video as well.
Oh
Oh,
no, that one is a collection of little snippets from all of the poems. And basically, that was probably simply beautiful.
yes. But before you get there,
Yes,
moving on, I was looking at that on page 19 when you talked about moving on.
yes,
And it was just so much, so many things in that. Um, I kind of looked at um, how we are ride or die for love, us as women, and
yes.
and how we want closure. I'm like, closure. I don't know if men look for closure, but it seems like we always want closure. I don't think they
Yes, we
do.
do. We thrive on it. It's like almost like taking inventory to figure out what happened.
Mhm,
Let me realize or recognize what happened in this relationship so I can fix it in the next one.
mhm,
But I've never been in any relationship where I actually got closure, where I was able to actually go back and question them on why any of it happened.
mhm. But with that,
Never.
why
I
even
have never.
suffice us thinking it could be a lie why, it could be a truth why, but we just want that closure is really, it's just, I mean, if it's over, it's just over, but I don't know why we don't let it just lie.
Well, that's one thing we have to learn to just let it be. Because if it was going to last, it would have. And
Mhm,
in I think it's a testament for itself because it didn't.
mhm,
There was something broken. You know, not just I know exactly why it didn't
mhm,
happen, why it ended. But I just want to, I don't know, just get their point of view,
mhm,
just to make sure that it wasn't me, that it was a mutual agreement
mhm.
sometimes. But moving on was, man, I crashed and burned in that one, and that was the truth. It was the truth. I crashed and burned, and I don't even know why I. Again, I don't even know why I do some of the things that I do. You know, it's sometimes, again, heartbreak. I'm very familiar with, and it's so, you know, truth be told, sometimes when this was written, that was the only way for me to actually feel.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's the
Wow,
truth. Because I
wow.
didn't have a lot of joy, I didn't have a lot of pain, uh, but disappointment, hurt, that's constant, and far too much that we know how to deal with hurt and pain more than we know how to deal with joy,
Mm,
excitement,
so
and true love.
mm. So I wanted to ask you this before you go into your pieces or piece that you're going to say for us. Um,
Yeah.
being that you, I don't want to say it like this, but this is the best way for me to say it. Being that you coming into a new relationship or the same, just let's just say you coming into a new relationship and you are broken. So do you trust your brokenness to dictate what you feel about that person? Or do you move aside all that brokenness and give a new clean slate to figure out what you want in this relationship?
Well, that's quite easy. I have given up the brokenness because I'm starting over a new relationship with the Father. You can't have any relationship without truly understanding the love of the Father and what He has
Mhm.
purpose for His children, for me. So once I understood what Yahuwah has in store for me, what His views are of marriage, because I grew up in the church, and I can truly say that my understanding of what marriage was, relationships, because it didn't bother me to know that I have a boyfriend, I'm his girlfriend, and it's okay for me to give my body to him as if he deserved it, or if I deserve his body, all because we're boyfriend girlfriend. There's nowhere in the scripture where the Most High gives his stamp of approval for girlfriend and boyfriend. Only time a man and a woman should come into an understanding is if they're married. And my stance these days are very firm on that. Either you come with me and you see me as your rib, and I see you as my shield, as my protector. Those If those things is not there, you can't come to me because you think I'm a pretty face, if you like my shape. None of those things matter to me anymore if you don't know your place as a man
Mhm.
in the word, because that's the only way you're going to truly be able to love me, is if you love me according to what the word says.
Mm.
And
And it,
you will only be satisfied with me if I can love you according to what the word says. Because
mhm.
all these other things that you want me to jump through hoops for, I'm not going to do it. I'm not that woman anymore.
Mm.
So my alignment. So I have become centered and aligned with
Mhm.
my heavenly Father. So, and if that man is not coming in his name, you can't come to me at all.
Mm. And that took you a lot of praying and stuff to get there, or a lot of
Oh,
pain, or
it
both,
did.
combination of both.
It did because he broke me down. I have a poem by the name of Flowers where he pruned away all of my damaged and diseased limbs. And those damaged and diseased limbs are relationships,
Mhm.
um, things are that were not healthy for me, but I gave until I couldn't give anymore, until it hurt me to the point to where I was so stressed that I was diagnosed with pseudotumor cerebri. That is where your brain thinks it has a tumor, but
Mm.
it doesn't. So I was getting spinal taps every 6 to 8 weeks to remove excess fluid from my brain. And I was going blind at the time. My vision was here. My vision was here. And shortly after, a month after my family and I went into a domestic violence shelter, I was off medications. I was off all the type of breathing devices, and I've never gotten another spinal tap since. So I understand that stress kills.
Mhm.
It will wreak havoc on your body. And truth be told, it was nobody's fault but my own. Because I fought for my marriage. And my grandmother, in her wisdom, she told me, this is not your husband. This is not your true husband. And I'm like, oh, but yes, it is. I said I do. And I meant it until death do us part. That I did. I did. So, but I end up divorcing him. But all of my medical issues went away. I have no issues whatsoever regarding the stress that I was in, because I was in and out of the hospital like
Mm.
every 2 to 3 months.
That's beautiful. I'm glad you salvaged yourself, you controlled
Hallelujah.
yourself through lots of prayer and different things. I like that one too, flower as well. So give us a piece of what you have. And tell me what page so I can follow.
Okay, this is Simply Beautiful. And on my page is page 32.
Simply Beautiful. I'll look at the contents.
Yes, it is. And it's the last poem of it is You Israelite Man is right before the last poem. Simply Beautiful.
All right. All right, 42 on mine.
Okay.
And I
So
am ready.
Simply Beautiful. Sweetest dreams, warm embrace, remembering you in your loving grace. Breathing softly, dancing hands, glides along my silhouette, remembering how you touch me so, low and wet, my back you braced. Seeing eyes through fear and passion, beating hearts keeps the pace, longing for your sweet embrace. As dew moistens the grass, gently falls into place. Nervously, while I wait, you're edging nearer to my fate. In my eyes, I showed my soul into darkness. They pierced the soul of whom I cannot say. In the night, I gave away. Selfishly, I held you tight, knowing you're mine for just one night. With your hands, I felt the key of knowing what can never be. Forbidden fruit you were to me, tasting something simple, something sweet. Needing to say just one more time as I surround you in my haze. On top, I took control. Under my strength, unable to breathe, you closed your eyes as I. Weakened legs, you stumbled through the time we shared. Forgive my intrusion, laws. I didn't mean to hurt you so. It was not my intention, and you were a sight of delightful pleasure. So my story went untold. For many years, you were a ghost I longed to have and hold. Simply beautiful, you were to me. I pulled you in, not knowing what to expect other than just one night. You touched me so I was afraid, hearing those words that you said, unsure of the teacher. Eagerly, we pleased each other, losing control, wanting more than I could bear alone, other than to say goodnight, thinking of all the ways you loved me. This is my apology to you, the sweetest way to say goodbye.
Who were you
And
writing
that
this
is
to?
simply beautiful.
Who were you thinking about here?
To someone I loved. I love this particular person.
Mhm.
Um, and I wrote this before I wrote Moving On. So before I even contacted him, I already said my goodbye because I knew where I was heading. I knew that this was it and this would be the last time that I would even have a conversation with him.
Mm, I like that. Do you have the one that is, oh, let's see, I think it was Making Conversations. Was that it? I believe it was. Making Conversations. It's on
Oh,
my book, is
you
page
like making
50.
conversation? Yes,
Uh-huh.
I have it. Okay. Making conversation. Sitting alone, deep in thought. Excuse me, are you? Looking up, I see him. I said, it's been a long time. He said, yes, it has been, and everything and nothing all at the same time. I said, Are you here with your family? And where is the wife? He says, the family is good, but there's no wife. May I take this seat, or is it taken? He replied, you may take it if you like. Silence fills the booth as he takes his seat. Our eyes lock onto each other. I can feel him drinking me in as if it's our first time. I'm feeling a coolness around me, and the moisture is evaporating. The iciness of his eyes pierces me, pulling me closer to him. The licking of his lips brings me out of the trance. I exhale in a soft, aching sound that brings him to attention. He takes a deep breath, pulling my scent across the table.
Now this right here, was that
And
like,
that's making.
say it again?
I said, no, that's just the end of the poem of Making Conversation.
Yeah, because I was wondering with this one right here, I said, is she, it made me think of a person that was shy, just doing a come on, that conversation, are you married, just to have a come on line. And I was like, so is she at this point feeling hold, or is she trying to make a step to some sort of advancement in this newfound person that she is, or is she still broken at this time? Who is she at this
Oh
time?
no, she's not. No, she is not broken at this time. This is her sitting at a booth, minding her own business, and this person walks in from her past.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what that is, someone who walks in from your past, you've had a relationship with, and I guess I'm just being nosy. just, just a thought.
Food for thought. The one on the video, which one was that one? I really like that one. The video you sent me of the one. Did you freeze? You frozen? Come back. So I think she froze.
Oh, you're frozen.
Yep,
Okay,
I
there
was
you
saying,
go. There
yeah,
you
I
go.
was
You're
saying you
back.
froze. You froze on me. We both freezing toward each other.
Yes.
So I think it's I'm released. Is that the one that was in the video?
Yes. I'm released. Like I said, that takes a couple of different. It has a little flowers. It has simply beautiful. It has ooh, no, Alpha's not in there.
Yeah, Alpha is well, I mean, not in this particular one.
Yes, I was just
Alpha
saying
is.
in that collection.
Mhm.
So yes, that was just fun. But would you like to hear I'm released?
Yes.
You know what you should hear is exchange.
Okay.
I think that would be a
But
great
before you
one.
go there, okay, Alpha, as I was reading
And that
that,
is page,
wait a
yes.
minute, before you go there, I was reading Alpha.
Oh yes.
And so I want to ask you, okay, at times it seems
Yes.
like you were talking about the creator, then you were talking about a man. Help me out right here. Is this a combination of man and creation, or help me out?
It's all the creator. It's all the creator. It is all the
Okay.
creator.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, if you take a look at the book of the Israelites, some people call it the Bible. We didn't choose him. He chose us.
Yes.
So, and I took it from that standpoint that he is Alpha. You know, I may not be your first. We didn't choose him, but he chose us. He said, but I will be your last. In the end, I will be your last. So
Yes.
I wrote that with him in mind.
Okay.
Because all of the hurt, damage that I've gone through, it's him that restores. It is only him that will provide me shade in the summer and a home in the winter. Everything that we have comes from him. And for me, which made healing easy,
Mhm.
was to get back to my first love. And he is my first love.
Yes.
And I enjoyed very much writing Alpha.
Yes. And what was the one you were going to do? Exchange? On my page is
Yes,
22.
I have it marked here.
I see Daniel Black is out there. Do you know Daniel Black? Wendy Arced, Jacqueline, hello to you guys. Daniel Black, I really love him as well. He's an
Well,
author.
good evening to all of you. Thank you for being here. And this poem is Exchanged.
Okay.
What will I exchange today? I'm not willing to let go. Well, pardon me. I'm willing to let go. I'm willing to give up. I'm willing to give out, but not willing to give up. I'm willing to give up my past. I'm willing to admit that I am abused and battered. I'm willing to admit I'm sad. I'm willing to admit I'm lonely. I'm willing to admit I want to be free. I'm willing to admit I want to be loved. I'm willing to say I'm indifferent to my mate. I'm willing to say I hate the person I've become. I'm willing to say I'm a lustful person to my imagination. I'm willing to say I want what is not suitable for me now. I'm giving up my intolerance. I'm giving up my anger. I'm giving up my bitterness. I'm giving up my hurt. I'm exchanging all of this to live in truth, to live in the moment, to live with purpose, living in dissolution. Oh, to live in joy, living in dissolution no longer. My heart is willing to let you in again and again. Yes to your demands of love and affection. Yes to the sweet aroma of intimacy, beautifully exchanged.
Now,
And that is exchange.
mm, so at this point, um, where were you at this point in your life that you were willing to admit, willing to
Oh,
exchange?
at this, I was starting, yes, I was at this point starting to identify things about myself,
Mhm,
things that I didn't like. It forced me, I had to look into the mirror actually, and I didn't like what I saw. And I was so distraught about this person I've become. I didn't recognize my own self.
mhm,
So, and I could see if I couldn't recognize my own self, and I'm sure he didn't recognize the woman that he married.
mhm. Wow.
I felt like I changed so much. And again, I don't put all the blame on him. I was the one who changed, and after I took a close look at myself, I didn't like what I seen at
Mhm,
all. So that poem was very hard. It took time to write that one,
mhm.
but by the time I got towards the end, I started to see a change in me, which was for the better.
Mm, mm.
I
So
did.
how long did it take you to write this poetry? How long, this book of poetry?
Oh wow, my whole life.
Mhm,
Because these poems spanned these experiences, these life lessons spans my entire life up until this point.
mhm.
And like I
You said
said, this is
volume
just
one.
yes,
Yeah,
this
this.
is just a quick reads. There's over 100 so poems,
Mhm,
and when I had friends who just, when I just dumped everything on them, like, here, take a look. It's like, I can't read all of this. It's doing too much. I'm up, I'm down. You just got me going through my whole emotional roller coaster
yeah.
here. So you got to do something. You just can't put all of it out. like that. And it would be, she felt it would be overwhelming. And I agreed. So that's why I call it quick reads. And I just do 50 or so at a time.
Oh, that's good. And
So
so,
it make it easier. So
so
so you wouldn't get so frustrated and give up and not finish the book.
it was good. So in these,
Thank
were you very selective at which ones you want to put in here out of the 100 that you written?
you. It was because I I, I wanted you to be able to see growth
Mhm,
in the first 50, to leave you, to leave some anticipation of just like, okay, what else is going to be coming from Lewis? What other stories, poems, and the growth? I touch on spirituality. Of course, the desires of a woman. It took me some time to be comfortable with my own desires,
mhm,
um, meaning how dark my desires can be,
mhm.
how um, it's kind of sometimes trying to, I hurt myself trying to satiate my own desires at times. So that's where I have to be careful about who I let around me. And because any little thing could just set me off, for
Mhm,
as a memory, a smell. I'm still uh, can sometimes be triggered by a scent,
mhm.
and I can be taken back to where I was a child, being pushed down in the dirt
Yeah.
and being spit on and have rocks thrown at her. So yeah, so just when I go out, I have to put on the whole armor of the Most High, and I'm much more happier these days. I smile.
I was gonna say the
My
beautiful
joy
smile. How
is
long?
good.
I was gonna say, how long did it take you to have that beautiful smile? You are a beautiful woman, and how long did it take you to smile?
It took some time after my divorce. And I went through a lot of physical changes. Although all the medical stuff went away, but I still had issues that were seeping out of my pores. So my appearance
Mhm,
changed. It's honestly, when you're sick, I'm dark. Uh, my countenance is dark. Everything is dark until you sweat, until you remove all of those entities out of you and you
mhm,
clean house. And it what's so beautiful about it, it seemed like it feels like it happened overnight, but it took time. and and I didn't shy away from the hard truths um, of my life, of
mhm,
the situation that I put myself in. And I understand that I should have never been hard on myself, and I should have never taken the blame of my molestation,
mhm,
because I have mentioned my youngest is 11. I could not even imagine someone coming up to them, dumping all of these things on them, and
mhm,
they are supposed to navigate through this with smiles on their face. And I've learned that it's okay if I need to cry about something. I let it I let it happen, and then I let it go. I don't hold anything. I'm like a leaky bucket. I'm not holding nothing. And that's the truth.
Can you do one more? The first one, the unsent letter. The unsent
I'm
letter.
sorry I didn't hear you.
Can you do one more
You
for us?
like for me to read that
The
one?
unsent letter. Yeah, I really like that one.
It'll be my it will be my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is the unsent letter. My thoughts are still of you, unable to answer why. Why may not be the best question to ask. Entirely, wanting to understand the connection. I felt the presence of your captivity of my heart, mind, and lastly, my spirit. Seeing in vibrant colors, not of black nor white, deep hues so rich, vast is the way, a slow and steady beat that draws one nearer to the truth of the knowing, telling oneself, be not afraid of the truth, and it must be given light to live. I sat alone, not in completely void of time, unable to see clearly of the future. I cannot go back too far into the past, not even for myself. I am doomed not to repeat what was damaged, lost, or stolen, as my ancestors off the Ivory Coast. I seem so far removed, yet its present still give rise to heartbreak of the knowing, inferior minds who cheer and greet with such vigor to my gentle heart receive that fatal blow. To the naked eye, I'm unremarkable, used as cheap parts to fill a need, not in love nor lust, but of hatred, not to confuse one's initial part of the treachery. Truth is, I was given consent for the seed as payment for my betrayal to oneself. The cost was more than I could purchase. There lies my pain that I fed myself for years, continually paying for something I thought would have an expiration date. Clearly, I was the only one present and received the declaration of payment was made, only I understood. With a smile, the other party beat, misused, raped my gentle heart, that it became hard to breathe. A thought comes to mind. The cost is so exorbitant. Freedom replaced fear that has been long forgotten. The terror that had stolen a young child's faith, that made her fearful of true compassion, intimacy, things she longed for as a woman. The sins of others stained her young childhood for years, truly making her cold and uninviting to true love. This later states enough is enough of living in the shadows of slavery, of sins that others placed on me. The shame of being hunted like prey, not by one, but of many, sealed my memories. I was ashamed for years of my own body that was beautifully made by my father's hands. Being told as a child, this is your fault. So much for a young mind to process. Where is the protection that should have been given? As my abusers continually bullied and intimidated me, as my defense, I became a woman with the ability to forget her own most stressful moments, which her abusers used to his advantage until she began to write down conversation as a way to stay viable. Truly, what a way to live in a stressful environment. I didn't perish as he thought, as my ancestors before. I found my voice, and still, I choose to walk on the softer side of my personality. It is where I find the most comfort for my soul. I was pushed one too many times in this day. My father, showing his strength of control while putting this abuser in his place beneath my feet, is now his home. Never to return is my confidant. Have the courage to write your unsent letter to yourself and begin your healing and learn how to love the child within you today. Give yourself the protection of love, our greatest weapon. Since
That
and
was
that is the
beautiful.
unsent letter.
That was beautiful.
I pray that
That was
that came
beautiful.
through okay.
Yeah. It was a little glitch, but it
Thank you.
came through. Um, with this poem here, as I read it as a reader, I saw you, me as a reader reading the poem. I saw it like
Yes.
a contrast or a parallel to those of our ancestors that were raped, as well as yourself, that you can kind of compare these things. And that's what I was thinking. I don't know if that's what you've done, but an unsent letter, I thought that was very therapeutic to just sit down and write. And I'm just going from this from a reader, gathering the aspect of this letter written to
Yes.
us, and to yourself, is something that we see, we can read it. And now that we've read it, it's something that we just don't have to send. We've gone through it, don't have to go back through it. But you tell us more. What was your take on doing the unsent letter?
It was a letter to myself. One of the things I'd learned while I was in the shelter in therapy was to sit down and to write myself. We write letters all day, every day, in texts, emails, but how often do you sit down and write yourself a heartfelt letter? And wow, and this is what I wrote to myself. And basically, giving myself a hug. That was me giving myself a hug and telling myself, you survived it. Where a lot of women didn't. I was fortunate enough to live, and I'm so thankful for it because it wasn't until death, and that's the love. How dark it is, but you also have to see the love of the Father, that I didn't die in it. As awful as those things happened to our ancestors, guess what? If all of our ancestors died, we wouldn't be here today.
That's true.
So there's love and there's protection in that, because there's a promise given to those who will fight, who will trust in the word, and who will trust in the things that you were told when you were in the light. And that kind of goes back to acceptance. I really, truly enjoyed that narrative writing as well, acceptance. And it's about accepting all those things that happen to you, and there's no shame in it,
Mhm.
because the Father sent his son to die for my sins, and I'm covered, because that was one of the things that bothered me, being in the church. My virginity was taken.
Mhm.
So where does that leave me? Uh, am I still loved? And for the longest, I didn't feel love. I didn't feel like I could even go to the Father with everything that had happened to me.
Mhm.
And I couldn't beg, I couldn't even ask for forgiveness, because, again, it was told that I wanted it. And I had some issues. I'm like, did I really ask for it? I really started to second guess myself. And if I second guess myself, how many other children? It's
Yes.
like, well, yes, maybe I did ask for it. I don't know when I asked for it, but they said I did. It happened. So it must be my fault. And truth is, it's never the child's fault. It's never the
So
child's
true.
fault. So it's all about accountability in me being accountable for my own actions.
Mhm.
And I just learned to love myself. And I pray that this book will teach other women and men, if they're in this been in that position, that you deserve love, and you also deserve protection as well.
That's so true. And when you were thinking, I would think about that Romans 8 and was it 8:28? Um, or 8:23. But when he said that all things work together for the good. And so we're just thinking about good.
For your
We're not
good.
thinking about that everything we go through is
Yes.
filtered through God's loving hand. It doesn't mean that he protect us from what's going to happen to us. You know, just because you're a
Right,
Christian or just
right.
because you're not a Christian, don't mean that you're going to escape what's going to happen to you. And so
That's right.
one thing I listened early on when you were talking about that sometimes we as women, we always saying that, you know, especially what you said with the marriage, you said there are some things that you own up to. We have to be responsible for what we've done in that marriage or those relationships, you know,
Yes.
just own up to that responsibility. And you take it so well to sometimes when I'm hearing you, it sounds like a it's a beautiful, don't get me wrong, now it's a beautiful responsibility to take, but then it sounds like it's so harsh to take the responsibility of what you're taking the responsibility of. You know what I'm saying? You're taking ownership that this,
Mhm.
yeah, some things I did do, some things were warranted, some things I didn't, you know, and just, you know, take that ownership of something may have happened. But these are some
Yes.
beautiful stories. And we said tonight, um, if those of you want one of her books, just say me on the feed, and then I will inbox you and email you her code. And just tonight, the book is $10. That's correct, Louis, just
And
tonight.
with free shipping.
And with free shipping, it will be $10. And with free shipping, just let me know and I'll look back at the feed. And I'm looking forward to the next volume. So you're going to put them in as many volumes as you can. You know, 50 at a time, you said, right?
Oh, it's gonna be 4.
Four.
It will
No,
be
already it's going to
4.
be four. And would it be
Yes,
titled like volume one, volume two, or would they have
it will be.
a different, it will stand under this title?
They will have a different cover.
Mhm.
It will be under that title. It will be. It will be some lessons of life through poetry. We have spring, summer, fall, winter, and those are the 4
Oh,
books. And
oh, I
it
just
takes
can't
you
wait
through
I
that
don't know why I
journey.
just can't wait to the fall and the fall. I want to see the fall look like. I know spring, I can kind of figure it, but those warm and those winter cold days, I can't wait to see what that looks like.
Oh yes, I would like to leave you with one of the poems. It's called "She," which will be in uh, in the summer poems.
Okay, it's
That will
not in
be
this
my
book right
next
here. It's in the summer poem.
It will be in the summer.
Okay, you got to give
And
us a
this
piece.
Thank you. And this one is called She.
Okay.
She comes in darkness, in the space where only the sound of a whisper can be heard. I love her. I desire her. Remembering her landscape of muted hues of pinks and black, intermingled, drawn in the shadows of my dreams into a pool of which I want to drink of, submerging myself into. My eyes gaze upon a scenic view that lingers in darkness. Shadows of the night being caught by the reflection of the gift that is before me. I stalked her. I've wanted her. I wanted her to call my name. Call my name. Say my name over me. I wanted her to make me her seat. I wanted her to nurse me from her breast, flowing with the gift of life. I found her, this unsuspecting girl who has my heart, but another I belong. She knows nothing of me, of my longing for the first embrace, the warmth of her mouth to mine, hearing her breathing deeply as I caress her, smelling the perfume of her scent as it permeates deep within me, imagining, feeling waters flowing over me as she, calling my name, saying my name. She comes, only in the whisper of my mind, she comes. And that is the poem She.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you.
I'm thinking, is
Thank
it
you.
I'm thinking it, I'm always thinking of something. I'm thinking, is this her mother? Is she nursing this person? Who is this woman? Is this her grandmother? Is it just, I'm just thinking all over the place.
You know what? It depends on who's listening to it on how they receive it. I had people to think it's about two women. I had people to think about a man reminiscing on a woman. But when I wrote this through the lens of my husband's eyes of looking for me. But like I said, I changed so much that I didn't even recognize myself. So I didn't recognize myself in his eyes. So, and
Mm,
that's how she came about.
wow. I'm looking forward to more. Um,
Well, thank you.
thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. And what would you
It's
like?
truly been my pleasure.
Thank you so much. What is the takeaway that you want your readers to take away from these poems? What would be your takeaway?
Um, to live in truth,
Mhm,
uh, live not your truth, because truth is higher than you. The truth is the truth even when no one believes it. Truth
mhm.
is still the truth when everybody denies it. And if you can do that, I say this all the time, a path will be laid out at your feet. The trials and tribulations that you're going through, they will all lessen if you submit yourself. If you submit yourself to the higher power, to whoever you serve, there is a covering there. There is love there. There is wisdom there. There is encouragement there. And all of those things takes courage. You can't do any of those things if you first of all don't surrender. Oh, you know what? That just brings me back to the poem Acceptance. And I like to just read the last
Sure.
page of Acceptance. Here it is. It says it's the last page of Acceptance, and I know our page numbers are not the same because of when these books were published, but it says 20 in my book,
That's 20 in yours.
and it is the last. Huh?
You said it's page 20 in yours.
It's it's 20 in mine. Yes.
And what was the title again? I'm sorry.
Acceptance. And it's the last paragraph.
Okay, hold on. It's 26 in mine, and my hand went right to it. Okay, the last
Okay, the last
paragraph.
paragraph. It
Okay.
says, acceptance is beautiful. It is a cure all and it covers all. Acceptance has the power of healing, restoring, forgiving, surrendering. All of these must be done willingly. Please never forget what you heard in the light when you are covered in darkness. Acceptance paid my debt in full.
I love that one too. Acceptance. Go ahead and just tell us a little bit more about that. Acceptance paid your debt in full.
Um, it's it it spans um, relationships, miscarriages, death, burial, um, and and this one also was therapeutic for me as well because what you read it and some very traumatic things
Mhm.
happened in there, especially like when I came home from this drug-induced haze, and I'm awakened by the sound of the door closing. And I get up and I step into this small space and I see a towel being placed over my child's body, my
Mhm.
child's remains.
Mhm.
When I tell you, I was angry. I was angry. I was so angry. And, but I still remain hopeful because I still had one. I was left with one, and um, I was determined within my own mind to bring this to pass. And acceptance told me, as hard as it may be for some to admit, but for me, I knew that my twins were boys, and that he would never have a seed, that his line would be cut off, and that is what happened. So uh, it took years for that revelations to come to me, because I was a twin myself, uh, and my sister died in Euro. So and the thought of being pregnant with twins was so beautiful to me. I was excited and I loved it. I enjoyed pregnancy. I enjoyed every last one of my pregnancies, but that one was hard. And I, in the beginning, I didn't understand, but there was a revelation that his seed would be cut off from the earth. And like I said, acceptance healed me. It really did. It did.
And when I think about that, just what you're saying, and from reading the poem, the acceptance is, in my words, the freedom that you had, even though it was a debt of all those things that
Yes.
you went through, of all those pains, but accepting it was the freedom that let you go. That's what I had gathered from that.
That is true, because I had a choice to make. Um, my Father in heaven, he's very absolute, and I was given a choice, uh, life or death. I chose life, and I left that marriage. And if I would have stayed, I know, with all my history and everything I had been through, um, just even thinking about the first time that poem, I've been at death's door a many of days.
Mm,
And the moment he made it clear to me, to my conscience, you have a choice to make. It's life or death. And when I got that message, it wasn't angels whispering and, hey, you want to live? No, it was harsh. Do you want to live or do you want to die? Choose ye this day of who you gonna serve. And I'm like, okay, I choose life. And in choosing life, there's requirements I have to make in order to keep living. If I don't, I'm dead in more than one way.
mhm.
And that's how I see it.
Spiritually, all of the above.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
That was
So,
beautiful.
and that is my closing. That is my closing. If you can accept it and with understanding, I mean, you have to get up your spiritual strength in order to be free, because to be free, that means that you have to change. And sometimes we're not all willing to change.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's comfortable staying where you're at because you know how to navigate um, those channels, those rooms. Stepping out into a new environment, there's nobody there for you. uh, and he will prune away everything to make it so you will depend on him. So I was walking by faith and not by sight, because things around me, all hell was being thrown around me.
Mhm.
It truly was. But just by walking in faith, I closed my eyes because it was just too much for me to take in visually, and that's the truth. I walked through everything with my eyes closed, and that saved me. That may be
Wow.
hard for, I hope that's not hard for people to understand.
Wow. Wow. No, it wasn't hard for me to understand. It's just that faith is not seen. You could I mean, you could take that either way you want to. You had to have that faith to close your eyes and to visually see with your faith, to walk out of there and to walk out living.
Yes,
So yeah,
Yes, because
I see it.
yes, because I left with the clothes on my back.
Mhm.
And look at me now. I have two books with a whole host of other books coming. I have my company I'm looking forward to expanding. I mean,
Mhm.
only by faith can you go from zero to something
Yes,
to thinking you can conquer the world. And it's a beautiful thing once you surrender.
yes. Do you think, and I know I'm gonna have to let you go, but it just came to my mind that, like you said, as a child you were hurt. Do you think that you would write, whether it be a novel or a poetry piece that will help those young boys or girls that has been damaged? Because we get to heal, and we have to help them heal at their level. You see what I'm saying? So, like at your
Yes,
level, you didn't really say at what age you were molested or anything, but at that level to think back, and I know it hurts probably now still, but to think back at that level, what would you give to a child to walk through that pain?
you have to remember you are groomed at a very young age. Um, I could have been probably approached probably as early as 5.
Hmm.
And the grooming process, it's going to be different for every child or every individual. There is not one. It's just a bag of tricks, and and those people are very seasoned. And a child is young, uh, innocence. That they will steal your innocence. They will bring you only. They will single out only you. And I just brought this gift for you, and it will be hard to it would be up to the individual, honestly, to heal the child within them. um, but to give someone my experience, from my point of view, I pray that it gives someone the strength to heal the child that's within them.
Hmm.
I do believe that's how a lot of domestic violence come up, unresolved pain, probably abuse on that individual, which was not dealt with, no counseling. At you know, in those times, you didn't talk about it. Mr. Jones
Hmm.
always beating up, Miss Jane. You don't talk about it. You see this violence, but it was never really dealt with.
Hmm.
So uh, I pray again that this will um, put someone in the right steps. But if Yah says the same, He put it on my heart, I sure will write it and be very honest, brutally honest in it, because you have to be honest. You cannot hide it, because honestly, um, we feel guilty with sexual uh, uh, things that happen to us because it feels good. What if it's so wrong? Why? Well, why does it feel good? Why?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, you see, if you're gonna be honest with it,
Hmm.
they it's like a candy. Well, if you want me to keep doing this, you can't tell anybody. And
Hmm.
I had, we have a part. I had a part in it, and it was hard
Hmm.
um, to say, man, I'm really messed up.
Yeah.
I
And
have
then you'll
deep.
probably feel like that's a relationship. Even though it was a
Yeah,
violation, then it eventually becomes a relationship.
it does become a relationship, and basically, no one. I don't know about for you. I was never taught how to date. That was my dating experience. So I didn't know.
Hmm.
I didn't know. and I felt ashamed when everybody found out my story. I was at a community center. How everybody found out, shooting pool. These persons come into where I was at, take my hand and lead me into the office, lock the door behind us, and I was sexually assaulted right then and there at the community center. So when I said I felt like I was being hunted like prey, I really did, because there was nowhere that I was safe, not even in my own home. I mean, they just had everybody bamboozled. I was like, well, sure. Well, Kim, come on out. I'm like, I don't want to go play. I want to stay in the house. And, since I'm not telling my mom, hey, something is going on, I would be kicked right on out the door. So
Mm.
if you can just deal with the shame of it all,
Yeah.
you'll be one step closer to healing,
Thank you
in
so
my opinion.
much. Thank you so much. I know
It's my
that I can
pleasure.
talk to you for days. Thank you for that beautiful walk away. I really appreciate you coming out and telling your story through poems, and not only just that, to just be transparent and telling a part of your story, which was kind of, I won't say hidden, but sprinkled throughout, and you didn't have to admit that these was you. It could be just a poem just written. And so we thank you for that. And we look forward to seeing those other volumes that you have. Again,
Thank you.
tonight, our guest is Lois YK, and her book is titled Some Lessons of Life Through Poetry, Spring Quick Reads, Poems and Narrative Writings, Volume 1. And there are going to be 3 more volumes that comes out. And for tonight only, this book will be $10 and free shipping only
Yes.
tonight. And you guys can email me, and I will email you. If you put your name out there, I will go into your messenger, and then I will give you the codes that she gave me so that you can get it at a $10 rate with free shipping. So thank you so much for being here. Where can they reach you?
Oh, I can be found at Louis YK Enterprises. I am also located on YouTube, Instagram. I am on all of the major platforms at Louis YK Enterprises.
Thank you so
LYK
much.
Enterprises, yes.
Thank you so much. And we'll be getting back with you. You'll have the SoundCloud and the video if you like. So thank you so much. And
Oh, it's like it stopped.